Hello and welcome to the Kristen Weardon Show. Today we have an exciting guest because he is involved in everything from business to charities and, well, everything in between. Today our guest is Todd Clevenger, and you are the Executive Director of Barnabas Charities as well as a partner in Kids Against Hunger.
That's correct.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, when you sent me your bio and your information, I was blown away by so many things that you have done and accomplished and, well, a lot going on in your life. But I was thinking about diving in first with the Barnabas Charities. You've done mission trips. Is there anything you haven't done, Todd?
Yeah, a lot of things I want to do yet. How's that? Well, I guess there is.
I love that attitude. And I thank you for making the drive down here today because, like I said, when I saw your bio and I was reading through it and all the giving back that you've done, I was so impressed by your spirit involved in all of this. So what struck me is you went on a mission trip. Your first one was in 2001, correct?
Yeah, my first mission trip was to Ecuador, which really spawned the really giving, or took it to another level.
Okay.
So the story behind it is basically I went to Ecuador, and one of our stops was we were feeding this group that were waiting for us. It was raining, and they had a church building, but it had no windows, no doors, and the wind was blowing, so half the people were getting wet. And I was just looking at that, and then I ended up speaking to the pastor, and I'm like, hey, what does it take to enclose the building? Yeah. And he said $4,500. So then, I didn't sleep for 4 nights, and finally I caught my first real promise to God. Okay. And at the same time, I started a consulting company 6 months earlier. So this was December. It was the year end. So my promise was, okay, God, if we make $25,000, I'll donate the money. Okay. Well, we didn't make $25,000. We made $16,000. So I was like, okay, I'm off the hook. I did my part. God, you didn't do your part. Well, that lasted another couple of days, and that was it. I donated the money, and then our company just exploded. Wow. I mean, literally, we won Mary Kay. We won just all kinds of companies that you would have heard of in the United States that you could say, well, we weren't really big enough at the time to win it. But we did win it. We did a great job. They loved us, and our company just exploded from there on. So at the end of the first year, when we started exploding, I thought, hey, there's something to this giving away stuff. And I started Barnabas Charities. That spawned Barnabas Charities. And then for the first 6 years, quite honestly, we did everything anonymously. So we heard about somebody that might need some help, so we would help them, but they would just get a card that said Barnabas. And that's it. They could never trace it. Whether we sent them stuff for their house, we did, you name it, we did it. Okay. Which brought up to Katrina, which changed things.
My first hurricane that I worked after Katrina, Katrina hit me so much as far as the devastation and just seeing what people were going through. So that's another thing that attracted me to your story, because after that I worked every hurricane.
Oh, wow.
In some capacity or another with my small little army of volunteers that I have here.
That's what it takes.
It does. It takes an army of volunteers with passions, but it also takes a leader to put these things together. And that's what really struck me when I was going through your bio and our conversation about it. So you completed hundreds of projects in 14 countries now. Is that still right, or has it grown since I read that?
It grows every month. It seems.
Really? So we're going to say hundreds of
projects in 14 countries, or 15. I haven't counted them lately, but I think it's 14 or 15.
You've had a career. You've had 5 companies along the way.
I've had like 10, but
10. Okay. Your bio. I had 5 in the bio, so you had multiple companies.
Yeah.
That you have sold, and all this by being involved in mission work. So how do you balance that? And then tell me about the companies.
Yeah, no, I love that question. So I believe as a company, well, there's 3 things. There's 3 things you got to do, and that's all you have to do running a company. You got to take care of your employees better than they think. You got to take care of your vendors. Got to take care of your customers. That's really it. And you got to do a good job. If you do a good job, you're going to be fine. So, luckily I haven't had an employee quit on me.
Wow.
Which I consider very high, especially in the consulting world when they're traveling. You know, if I had an employee that traveled 3 months to across the country and they're married, well, we're gonna do something for the spouse. We're gonna send her to a spa, send the guy golfing. We're gonna do whatever we can to keep them happy.
Right.
And so the things that we did were extra things,
Mm.
things they don't expect, big, you know, picnics for their kids, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I also believe when I started the charity, Barnabas Charities, that they should be given back to the community. So we had a big thing that, you know, the company gave a percentage of profits, but the individuals could give to profits. And if they saw somebody in need, all they had to do is bring it to us, and we would fund that.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so that's kind of how Barnabas Charities got started. I just carried that through. So my answer, I guess, on how to run a company, and a lot of people have done this. A lot of my consulting, I tell them this, and they've done this. But if you give back to the community, the employees like it. They're going to stay. You do more for your employees. They're going to give you more. They aren't going to give you 30% effort. They're going to give you 90% effort. Makes a big difference.
Oh.
And that's really how you drive money. And then what I did on my companies, like the big consulting company, and then I had a big medical company after that. Well, when I sold it, I'm very much into helping people. So I sold my consulting company, for instance, for a lot of money. We were number one in the world in what we did.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started going to Africa, and I went there for 6, 7 years. Well, I loved it. The greatest time of my life is finding good projects with a Christian leader, and I'd fund them, and I'd fund them, and I'd fund them. And that's what I did. That's why I started or took over the medical company and turned that around.
Right.
Because I gave away all the money on my consulting company. So I did the same thing for the medical company. But I believe, money will really mess you up if you're all about money. But if you're all about helping people, I mean, how can you go wrong? How can life be bad, I'm very blessed, in other words.
I love your business philosophy. It's the customer and the business philosophy, or your employee philosophy, are very similar. Give them more than is expected.
Yeah, like for instance, on my consulting company, we got up, we had a great year. There's about 35 of us, 35 employees, give or take. And I decided we're going to go on a cruise. So everybody got to take somebody on a cruise. Well, it's not that the cruise costs so much. It was that it's unexpected, and they've never heard of a company take everybody on a cruise. Right. So we went on a cruise.
Right.
We had our end of the year meeting on the cruise ship.
On the cruise. There you go. You might as well do that, right?
So that kind of stuff it goes a long way if they don't expect it. But it's even not even that. It's just treating your employees how you want to be treated. Yeah. I'm not any better. I used to tell my employees all the time, I could be sitting there, you could be sitting here. You're smart enough. Yeah. I mean, I just happen to be sitting here, so I'm blessed. Of course I'm going to treat you right.
Right. No, that's a great philosophy to have. But there's a reason, there's a story there too, because there's a reason you gave away all that money in the consulting company when you sold it, and it has to do with your health.
Oh yeah.
So tell us that story. We're going to dip into that one for a second.
Bit. Yeah.
We talked about that later after I got all the information. I was like, oh, there's the spot we can talk about that.
Yeah. So my driving force in life is partial because I've been a diabetic all my life. So when I was 14, I became a diabetic, and that was going from quarterback of the football team to not being able to play. Wow. Because they didn't want you in. So I was lucky to live. I went from 136 pounds to 96 pounds in 3 days. They told my parents I wouldn't make it through the night. Now this is 46 years ago, but I did. So the history behind that is my uncle had diabetes. He was the only one I knew. He died at 39. So I thought I wouldn't live till 40. So it was very easy for me to take risks. So everything I did was hyper. Jet ski racing, hyper. Softball, hyper. If I walked out of a softball game not bloody, it was not a good game. So I did everything on overdrive. So when I had the consulting company, I turned 40 during that time. And I'm like, but there was no reason for me to keep the money. Why would I keep the money if I'm not going to make it to retirement anyways? Why wouldn't I help people? So it was very easy for me to take that risk because I had no intention to live to see Social Security, no intention whatsoever. So as the companies went on, I just took the money and kind of gave it away. Well, the good news of that is I learned to live with money not driving me. What drives me is feeding somebody. What drives me is some lady that can't feed her kids and I can help,
Right.
or something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Going on a mission trip to a third world country and realizing I'm complaining that I don't have that. This person hasn't eaten for a week and look at what they're sleeping in. You know, that kind of stuff. That's what drives me. And I love it. None of us know. Neither one of us know if we're going to wake up tomorrow morning.
True.
So am I accumulating all these toys and all this money for nothing?
Right.
Because we don't know if we are. We can, oh no, I'm going to pass it for my kids when I die. Okay. But why don't you enjoy life at the same time? You know, I spend a lot of time, like I said, in consulting, being CEOs, CFOs, sales managers for companies. Yeah. And a lot of those are part-time roles, because I tell them, why would you hire me full-time when I can do it part-time? Why would you pay so much money? Because it's the basics that people are missing in business. It's I say it could go in any business and help them make more money, because it's simple stuff. Yeah. And it's the same thing with life. It's simple stuff. Who says we're going to live tomorrow? Yeah. Let's do what we want to do. Let's go have fun.
Pivoting again in our conversation, sure. You received an award called the United Nations Golden Rule. Did I get that right?
A Golden Rule Award was by the United Nations.
By the United Nations. Yep. Okay. So how does one get an award from the United Nations? And how did this all happen? How exciting.
That's a great question. I really don't even have the answer on how.
I love that.
It was one person told somebody who told somebody, and then some ambassador got a hold of me and talked to me a couple times. Pretty soon said, hey, we're going to give you this Golden Rule Award. And I'm like,
what's that?
I don't even know what that is. Well, it's the United Nations initiative and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So that's where it came from. He ended up being a good contact because the Golden Rule Award, getting the Golden Rule Award, and then because of that, there was a university in Uganda who gave me a doctorate degree, an honorary doctorate degree. Okay. Because of that, I got invited to the United Nations where they were honoring these first ladies in African countries. So,
and that's where you met.
There was like 7 first ladies right next to me. Yeah. And the lady from Burundi was the first lady. And she evidently said our meeting was the best meeting she ever had in her life. And when I was told that, I was like, because she called me up for a meeting. Mm-hmm. So it was her, me, a lot of people with a lot of guns.
Yeah, as it is in those countries.
And this was in New York.
Okay.
And but anyways, I just asked her how I could help, because I know she was doing orphanages in Burundi, third poorest country in the world. Yeah. And that's why she thought we got along the best, because I didn't ask her for anything. She says she's never been in a meeting when somebody didn't ask her for something.
You wanted to know how you could
help. I wanted to know how I could help, which brought me to Burundi, which a couple more events with the First Lady, and then the presidential palace with the president.
Oh, nice.
And all that kind of stuff. So that one thing leads to another. I don't know how it started. That's a total God
What
thing.
is the Golden Rule Award? It's for service? Or
so the Golden Rule, the Golden Rule is do unto others as you want them to do to you. Well, every religion has a Golden Rule.
Yes.
Which I did not know before that, but I do now, because I have a chart that has them all on. And so that goes to people that do a lot of humanitarian acts.
So it was for all your work.
Yeah, it was for all my work.
And then from there, you got to make more contacts and do more great work.
It was really a crazy thing, because when I went to Burundi, I brought a United States flag, and we had this whole flag.
Where you swapped the flags?
Yeah, swap the flags. It was at a youth convention, and I mean, so I have a lot of crazy stories. And if you think about it, being a diabetic in a third world country where you just can't grab food is a challenge in itself. So I got all those stories. I mean, there's just crazy
this might turn things. We may have to do this again for sure, because it sounds like we can go in the business direction, we can go in the disaster, we can go in connecting people, there's so many facets to you. And I knew that when when I saw the
Yeah.
bio and we had that conversation, and I was like, wow, we can go so many places. How can I narrow this
Yeah.
down to a 30-minute conversation?
And you think of it, the business actually helps the charity work.
Yeah.
Certainly at the beginning, even more so. And the charity works helps the business. They kind of go hand in hand. And if you get a company that does charity work with their company, a lot of companies do it now. The younger employees want community involvement.
They want something. I noticed post-COVID especially. I think it started before that.
Yeah.
But because there was so much of it during COVID, so many conversations people were having near each other, and you had to kind of help each other out. Do you have hand sanitizer? What do you have? What do you have? The people that were willing to work together as a team. I know for me, we went out in the neighborhoods. We made lists, and we would go shopping because they didn't want to leave their houses.
It's true.
And my assistant at the time and we would go, and they'd be like, "You're back here at Costco." I go, "I have a list. I have a shopping list for some elderly people. They don't want to leave their house."
Well.
And they're like, "Oh, okay." And so they got to actually know us because we would go 3 times a week. And we'd make the rounds in these stores this side of town. And they got to the point that they actually would let us know when their shipping schedule, some of the people that could, let us know when their shipping schedules were so we could use a better, we still had the limits like everybody else, but just so we could better use our time.
Yeah, that's fabulous. I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah, it was born out of just necessity, and I couldn't sit home and not do anything. And I found it very frustrating because when you've worked enough hurricanes, you can reach out to people, and you have a little army of a little phone log of people that you can say, "Oh, do you guys still have this? Are you still working in this area? Or do you know who I can call?" And there was nobody for that because I couldn't call somebody in Idaho and say, "Can you ship me a pallet of something?"
Right.
Because Idaho was having the same problem as Florida.
Right.
I'm not used to that with a hurricane because hurricanes are localized and other places in the state or just the next state even. Who's driving down from Atlanta? Okay, on your next drive, can you bring us X? And they're like, "Yeah, I'll be there in 2 days."
Yeah.
You can't do that during COVID. So it was very frustrating.
Right.
So for me, that was I almost get like emotional because I almost had anxiety. Like, I can't help people? What?
And that's what I ran into with Kids Against Hunger because we put people together packing food.
Right.
Nobody's going to come together to pack food. So all that food where it went to help people in the local food banks and all this it all disappeared.
Yeah. That was a tough time because I know people who run food banks and charities like that.
It was tough.
And it was like getting the food in as well as distributing it, packing it. Every aspect that had a flow completely broke down.
Yeah.
Especially in the giving back charity world, for sure. So let's see. Now, lastly, what's next for Barnabas Charities and Kids Against Hunger? What do you have? What's next on your agenda? What do you have coming up that's so exciting?
That's a great.
Or what's the big
next?
like? What's the plan for the future even?
That's a great question. I think I try to listen and follow.
Okay.
If I feel like if I feel quite honestly like God's telling me something.
Okay.
My drive is to follow that urge. If I feel the urge comes from God, I feel like I need to follow that urge. Having said that, that's very hard to do, and it's hard to decipher what it is, where it is. But, I always like to do the Barnabas Charities stuff. So if I hear stuff, I want to do more. I want to do more mission trips in the near future because since COVID, I really haven't. I've only been on one. And I love that. Doing more food packaging events. I would like to, churches, it falls into what they do, but they have requests from everybody. I'd like to do more businesses. Like I got a call on my way here that wants to do an event. They're a business. That's great. I think more businesses should do packing events. And it doesn't take a big business, So I got some small businesses that's done packing events. Conventions are great because people get bored, especially if they're one company doing a convention. They love it when they do a packing event because it gets them out of the class, it gets them out of walking around. They don't know what to do. Now they're going to help something. Yeah. It's a great thing. I think that is the next thing to get companies to another level on what they're doing on giving.
I like that. And the corporate side, we do hear about corporations giving back, and some people don't realize that when they are a small business, you can still contact someone like yourself and say, "Hey, we've got some time coming up in the third quarter or the first quarter or whatever their business structure is, and we'd love to be involved, because you don't need 200 people. You can do a smaller packing
Right.
event. You can do a bigger packing event. I've seen different ones happen, and people don't realize it doesn't have to be a lot. Or it could just be the neighborhood women who get together on Wednesdays, and they can say, oh, you know what, this Wednesday, let's do something different.
Yeah. And I want to get universities doing packing events, get the kids involved.
Oh, that's a great idea too.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. And it's different than high school. There's no community service hours. They just have to want to do it.
Yeah, we're already working on a couple universities. And
in Florida?
Next year, no, actually one in Michigan State.
Oh, wow, great.
Hopefully.
So you're not, see, when people think we live in Florida, because it's such a big state, we only work in Florida.
Right.
And I know I don't. So and neither does your organization, obviously,
Right.
Barnabas Charities worldwide, but feeding children and anyone is worldwide. It's worldwide. Well, thank you, Todd, so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it. I know our audience got a lot from today's show as far as what you do, some business information, some charity information, and also about Kids Against Hunger. If you would like more information about Todd and his organizations, please check out the description on today's episode. He will be linked there along with the charities. And of course, please like, share, and follow our podcast. That way we can have more informative guests and information and all the exciting things you get to see us talk about every week on the show. We want to have all the great guests for you. So I will see you all in the next episode of The Kristen Weardon Show. Thank you, everyone. Life is a journey filled with challenges, but those challenges don't have to hold you back. They can be stepping stones to something greater, a life of hope, joy, and purpose. Hi, I'm Kristen Weardon, and my passion is helping you unlock your inner potential. No matter what your past may look like, your past does not need to define your future. Whether you're recovering from a difficult relationship or trying to overcome the challenges of your backstory, I'm here to guide you every step of the way. I offer a range of services tailored to fit your unique needs, everything from one-on-one coaching, group coaching, to foundation building challenges, and even accountability check-ins. Together, we can create a path that leads you to the future you deserve.